Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Professionalism and Quality, Aligning Purpose, People and Practice with Dr. Barbara van der Ecken from BVDE Quality Solutions. We are just going to wait a minute for people to join, but I've just popped a quick question in the chat. So we're just going to invite you all to introduce yourselves and to please share one aspect of quality that you are most proud of in your organisation. And then we'll just give it another 30 seconds or so, and then Barbara, we will begin.
Perfect.
So we've got a few more trickling in, but as we hit 4 o'clock, let's begin. So Barbara, over to you.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. Really good to be here with you today to talk about a topic that I'm absolutely passionate about, and I'm sure you as quality professionals will be absolutely delighted to spend time discussing and exploring with me today. So professionalism and quality, aligning purpose, people and practice. I'm Barbara van der Ecken. I've been in the further education and skills sector for over 30 years. In many quality roles over the years, working in all different segments of our sector and working on different qualifications, small, large organisations. So really pleased to be here and share some of the ideas that I've had and gathered experience over the years and share some of those with you to see if it helps you to enhance what you're already doing in your organisation. So if you have pen and paper around, or if you like to have notes, there'll be plenty of opportunities for reflection. So if you get yourself ready, it'll be as interactive as we can. We've got chat participation, reactions, some Menti as well. So hopefully this hour will go very quickly. We're going to talk about lots of different things in terms of dual professional quality, quality processes, and how we measure evidence, and have plenty of time for reflection. So this is how we want to work together today. It's quite informative. I hope you'll find lots in there, quite informal as well, interactive, allowing you to reflect and really allowing you to take change back to your organisation. As quality professionals, you will want to constantly develop and enhance what you're doing. So hopefully it will help you with building your own action plan, but maybe also enhancing your quality improvement plan. So please absolutely be reassured that this is a safe and supportive space. Share and learn, and hopefully you'll learn some new things from me, but also from really looking at everything that's in the chats. So I can see some of you have already added to the chats the aspect of quality that you're most proud of. I'm going to have a little look at them in a minute. I can see there's still people coming in, so I'm giving everyone a chance to come in, settle, get a piece of paper and a pen ready for reflection, and then we'll start moving with the actual session. Is that okay with everyone? I'm just going to have a little look in the chat. Hi, David. I can see you're coming from Saudi, so fantastic. And really proud to say you've got DCS on TAQA and IQA qualifications. Love that. Admires teaching methodology, says Alex, one of your strong quality areas at Chelmsford College. South Central Ambulance Service from Clare. Educators are hugely passionate, which positively influence the quality of education that they provide. Some fantastic notes there. Keep adding to them. I think it's really nice for everyone to see the range of different roles within the quality remit as well. It's really good to see that, and that we all interact in the best possible way to create that sense of dual professionalism for all the people who we work with. So the webinar is designed to really help us understand the link between dual professionalism and quality. We're going to explore how we can see that dual professionalism will drive improvement, design quality processes that enable professional growth, and then also rethink maybe how we measure and then evidence that professional impact. So let's look at the link. And I told you we were going to start with a bit of a reflection. So think of an aspect of a time when dual professionalism really made a tangible difference to the learner journey in your organisation. And what makes that possible? Maybe you can put one aspect in the chat. You might just want to share an example of the difference that it made. It made me think. Sorry, I've realised I've not moved the slides for you. So think of a moment when dual professionalism makes a tangible difference to the learner journey in your organisation. What makes that possible? Have a little think, maybe share a word. I know, for instance, I was working with a team in accountancy, and because they had dual professionals delivering the session, they really made the spreadsheet come to life, explaining how it would be used when they were doing audits and the reality of the activities that they were going to do. And it really instilled that curiosity in learners. So I just wonder if you want to just add a few in the chats. I can see some of you are adding things in the chat. Sarah, unexpected connections that you can make, changing the mindset of your teachers. So they're not just a compliance view of the programs, but actually what comes with it. Claire, thank you for sharing in the ambulance world, the lecturers who can really explain and applying the theory to the practice, sector knowledge and expertise, being able to move the profession forward when they go into practice. Absolutely. So many great examples here. Oh, Natalie, I'm not sure about audio. Obviously, I think the team can hear us. Do you want to, Ellie, maybe you can check if Natalie has got issues with audio. It might be Natalie come out and back in. Anytime
all
that
fine
the
otherwise,
educator
Barbara.
is able to bring the learning experience to life and add value for the learners. So plenty of examples there of what difference it really makes to have that dual professionalism. And it's got real power. We know that when our practitioners really see that multidimensional role that they have, they can deliver content with more authority, with that expertise. They foster more inclusive learning environment. They are subject expert because they stay current with their industry knowledge, with the standards, with the practices, and they have those pedagogical skills, those teaching skills that they are constantly refining. They're looking at their teaching methods, they're looking how can they best support that learning. And when it comes together, that learner impact can be really transformative. You combine those and the experiences that the learners will have will be more meaningful, more relevant to them. And sometimes I think some of you have used that, absolutely transformative. So really important that our professionals, our practitioners recognise the power of that dual professionalism and really own it and see themselves not just as teachers, but also as occupational experts. So think about, again, I'm going to ask you to think for a second about your own organisation. Where does dual professionalism currently sit? Does it sit in policies or in practice? Does it sit with a few individuals? Is it truly embedded in the culture? Maybe you could put a few notes in the chats again. Where does it sit? Where do you see it? Is it truly that engine of learner impact and not just that compliance tick box? Let's see what you're adding in the chats. In practice and in culture, that's really good to see. Still in policies, not quite embedded. In the curriculum design, you can see it. It depends maybe on which area you work in. If you're working with apprenticeships, T-levels, it's probably more visible than in maybe some other aspects. I think that's what I see, Jackie, that you've added there. Some of you already in the culture. That's really, really good to see that quite a lot of you are seeing it in practice and in cultures. But some of you, it seems like it's still sitting very much in the policies and not yet be transformed in that day-to-day activities. More visible in the trades and in vocational courses where maybe it is easier to highlight that. So interesting to start thinking about that and how that day-to-day practice starts to create that culture where actually it's recognized as something not just as a nice to have, but as a differentiator for our practitioners. So I've tried to create an image. I'm a very visual learner, so I've tried to create an image that helped us to understand through this hexagon of when you have that alignment between the purpose, the people, and the practice, how strong it is. It creates that the conditions where dual professionalism will really be enacted and really be flourishing. So that's your middle space. Where it's absolutely that intersection between the standards, the methods, the professional identity, and each side contributes to that same objective. So when the purpose, the strategic direction of your company is that to have people who are dual professionals and experts, when you have people who really truly believe that they are the carriers of that dual professionalism and see the importance of that expertise, when you have practice, which means in your day-to-day activities, you observe that excellent delivery and that collaboration and the processes and the methods that allows you to really deliver that strong teaching, learning and assessment. That's where the magic happens, really. That's where people can then truly thrive. They can practice their craft and constantly develop. They can role model what they're doing, and they know that it's having that impact on learners. And I don't work necessarily to think about Ofsted, but we all have at the back of our mind the new Ofsted framework. And it was really, really interesting to see in terms of dual professionalism how much it's really now more visible within the Ofsted, the new Ofsted framework as well. If you go into their new toolkit on page 20, it's all about professional learning and expertise. And it starts from the top with that purpose. The leaders establish a culture of continuous improvement. It goes down to actual professionals who continuously seek to improve their expertise and maintain high levels of vocational or technical knowledge. It's really there now, really there to showcase how important it is to have that impact on learners, and how those strategies to make that happen are also going to be really considered. So that purpose, people and practice is exactly what we're going to be thinking of. When you are creating your quality structure, and it'll look different in all of your organization, but I bet you can probably tick a lot of those boxes within your quality framework. Give me a bit of a reaction if you can see here lots of things that you are doing in your day-to-day activities. I really want to ask you a question here. Do you reference dual professionalism, your SAR, in your QIP currently? Is it embedded in all your KPIs? Do you talk about it in your governance reports? Is it in your CPD plans? Do you look at the evidence of dual professionalism impact on learners? So you might find it really useful after this or with your quality team to reflect and maybe map where your professionalism appears across your quality processes. What's actually visible, what's missing. Because if you don't make it visible, if you don't highlight the importance of it in everything that you do, people are just going to forget about it or not realize how important it is. So ask yourself this, and I know very often I will probably see it in a lot of the in teaching and learning and assessment, because you like to see the contextualization, the skills, the behaviors of our tutors. You see it in CPD plans, for instance. I don't see it often in, not always in governance. I don't see it mentioned in our quality improvement plans necessarily. Do I ask our learners whether actually the knowledge and the teaching skills of our practitioners make a difference to them? Do I ask that to our employers? So all of those things are important. And so I think that's a really good activity to do in teams. And we're going to come back to it because I'm going to give you hopefully a few ideas as to how to really measure the impact and how to get that evidence at every stage. But I want you to start thinking about it. I could see lots of thumbs up as you were looking at it. So hopefully it's already there in what you're doing, but there might be some aspects where it's missing. So let's see how your professionalism really drives that improvement. We know, and we talk to our learners a lot around that word agency. We want our learners to be to own their development. We want our learners to develop, to adapt, to look out for new things. We want to do the same with our professionals, don't we? With our practitioners. We want them to take initiative, to be aware of their own capabilities, being aware of the goals that they're setting and how they're going to try and achieve them. So really important that we keep talking to them about that subject mastery and the skills that they're going to develop over time. And the professional standards are absolutely key to this. The ETF professional standards, I'm talking to quality professionals here, so I hope you use them and you reference them in what you do. You just go on the ETF website, professional standards, and it's all there. In this particular instance, I want to really point out just a few of those professional standards that are totally relevant to that ongoing professional development that we want. And quality teams, you will help and support and enhance all of this. So helping our practitioners to reflect on and evaluate their practices, their values, their beliefs, so that they can improve learner outcomes. How do they engage and promote that culture of continuous learning and quality improvement? That's absolutely what you do day in, day out. How do you make sure that they develop and update their knowledge of their subject specialism? Because there's so many new practices, new research, new industry requirements. Number 9 in the professional standards, how do you critically review and apply their knowledge of that research? They've done the pedagogical aspects to their practice. And then again, how do you provide access to up-to-date information, advice and guidance so that learners can take ownership of their learning? And we want to do that for ourselves. So you can see it relates absolutely to the professional standards. And everything that you do, I'm sure, aligns to it. And I'm going to show you now a little quadrant that I find really useful when I was mapping the needs of the teams around the organisation. So let's maybe explore it a little bit together. So if we look at, and some of you might have seen this already, and again, thumbs up or a little heart if you've seen this and if you're using it when you're mapping the skills of your team and how you can make sure you enhance their expertise. So the novice teachers on the left-hand side, the novice educator, they might be where we've all started at the beginning. We're new to teaching, we're still building that subject confidence. we're not too sure about our teaching skills, and our subject expertise is still growing and being refined. So learners here, the impact on learners, they might feel a bit unsupported, uncertain. Progress can be a little patchy for them because you're not putting scaffolding in place because your skills are not very good, or you're not making the links to the workplace. So that will have an impact on learners, the novice teachers. But we all start somewhere. We all start there. If we look at the subject matter expert, the here in the on the right hand side, those are educators that have come directly from industry. We see that a lot in the apprenticeship field where I work a lot, or in college, where actually we really gain from getting people who've come straight away from industry into FE and skills. They know their field inside out. But because they haven't yet built those pedagogical skills, learners sometimes can feel really overwhelmed or disengaged because that expertise doesn't guarantee learning. You want to make learning, you want to make it accessible for them, but because you're a subject matter experts, you might not gauge or calibrate in the right way. If we look at the skilled facilitator, and over my career, I've gone back to being a skilled facilitator because I've been teaching different topics, different modules, different programs. So I felt like, oh, I knew what I was doing in terms of teaching, but I went back onto that side. We move around over our career. These are, you can see you've got strong teaching craft, lessons are well structured, they're very inclusive, but because you haven't got that deep or current subject knowledge, the learners struggle to connect what they're learning with the real world. So it's not relevant, it doesn't feel like it's relevant to them. So where we want to get all of our practitioners to be is that high impact teacher, that really expert educator who, it's a real sweet spot of dual professionalism, where you've got that deep subject knowledge and you've got excellent teaching practice. When you're there, the impact on learners is that they thrive because they are challenged just in the right way, they're supported, they feel inspired, they're learning, they're progressing towards their next steps, their career. So that's where we're aiming to get all of our practitioners. And it's not just a model. I think it's a real mirror of our learner experience, as I've just shown you. It's like wherever you sit on the quadrant, you know that the learner experience is going to be influenced by that. And it could make a difference between being completely disengaged for our learners to actually having that transformative experience. So let's see how, as quality professionals, we can really support our practitioners to get there. So I'm going to ask you just to add in the chats. Here's a little bit of a reflection. Where do you see your practitioners, your teams more often? And where do you feel the apprentices are getting more impact? And that's obviously aligned, but just tell me in the chats maybe where you think you are within your company. Have you got a mix? Have you got lots of people who've come freshly from industry? Have you got people who've been teaching and delivering for years but have detached themselves from that real currency of the industry, of their subject knowledge? Can I see a little bit of that in the chats? Thank you for those who are really contributing to the chats. It makes such a difference. Jenny, working lots with new teachers. They're also subject experts. So they're developing those pedagogical skills, mix of ages and different experiences, which is great for that collaboration and sharing of best practice. Thank you for sharing that. Mix. Claire, again, a bit of a mix. Let's become more intentional about this and make sure that you use that quadrant and actually put people where you feel they are, have conversations with them and their teams. Where do they see themselves? A mixed bag, subject experts, coaching new staff, so a mix of novice and subject experts that you want to elevate their teaching skills. Thank you, Louise. Kelly, we might benefit from looking at the practitioners webinar we did last week. That might be really useful for you as well, actually. Lots of great things. An assessor team, so they are subject expert, but still they might be good with assessment practices, but not necessarily training. Thank you for that. So a mix bag in terms of us as quality professionals, really thinking about where our teams are and becoming really intentional about what we're going to do. And one of the starting points could be to actually start with the ETF Professional Standard Self-Assessment. It's free, it's on the website. Everyone can assess themselves against the 20 professional standards, and you've got a bit of a starting point to see where your teams are. When you've done that, you could look at co-creating individual PDPs, professional development plans, and then linking it to CPD plans, professional development plans, ensuring that you really tag what is actually going to develop their pedagogical skills and what is going to develop their subject industry, because actually you want to make sure that you're moving them into that top quadrant of expert practitioner. So really look at that, start to co-create that with the practitioners, with their line managers. It'll help you see how you can then co-create the whole organization quality development plan. If you have professional development, looking at the trends, what's coming out of it, it'll give you that real overview of where you need to focus. And is it that in our teams we've got teachers and assessors and coaches and trainers who've been there for years, and they could all gain from getting that new industry currency? There's a lot happening in industry, even just with things like AI, for instance, what's happening out there, what's the new jargon being used. So create those plans and then start to think about collaboration in delivery and how you can do that. Now, I've created for you, and I'm not going to spend too long on it in this webinar, but you'll get all of the slides afterwards. So hopefully it'll be really useful. But to really showcase that you can have a really intentional approach. So if we look at those teaching skills, look at the aspects that are probably low, that come out low for your practitioners. What does it mean in practice? How you can develop them, and then also the links to the professional standards. But you can do that for once you've got your overall view. What is it that is really happening on the ground? What aspects do you want to develop? And there are some easy ways to put things in place to really improve those teaching skills. Does that make sense so far? Just pick maybe one and look at it across the line. So if we look at that top one, for instance, inclusive teaching strategies, look at how designing learning that supports diverse needs and backgrounds. Some of the things that you could do to develop and help your practitioners to develop is to attend some training on SEND, on ALN, look at potentially exploring the universal design for learning principles, use the learner voice to see if you can shape the delivery and the curriculum in a better way. So there's lots of things that you can do. So and you'll have your own thoughts. I'm not trying to teach anyone to. It's just to give examples and start to create a little bit of momentum about how you can do this. And then you can do exactly the same in terms of your industry expertise. So if you feel like your team might be a bit further away from the current regulations or compliance aspect of the industry, what is it that they could do? They could attend industry briefings, they could subscribe to some of the updates from the sector you work in, work very closely with your AOs and your EPAOs. So there's lots of things that you can do. So start being really intentional about how you can do this. So you've got that individual view that's intentional, and then as quality professionals, you're also creating an overarching view that is very intentional about lifting them to that professional, expert professionals that you want. I led on teams that were leading professional developments when I was a quality director. The 1 year I had loads of money in my budget. I know, it sounds strange, but I did have a really quite a substantial amount of money in my budget for CPD, which meant I could send people out on paid training. I could get people in to really, upskill them, etc. And it was just fantastic. I just thought, this is maybe how we can do it. I changed organisation, and I remember the following year, I think I had about 1,500 members of staff and a pot of about £7,000 that year for CPD. So definitely not enough for everyone. So we had to really think on our feet as to how we could do that. And I've just jotted down 2 examples here from my time in the college. What we did, we noticed that some people, if you look at your quadrant, were really fresh out of industry, but not so good at teaching. So a curriculum lead in construction said, colleagues not so good, they've not been on site for years. So they created some CPD sessions and delivered them, helping them with jargon, with workflows, with what clients really expect nowadays. And they went and delivered it to their team. Now, what it did was really that collaboration that you want to see. It helped, obviously, their colleagues to know what was happening out there, but you were also upskilling that person in delivering and refining their teaching skills, because they did it as a lesson. They got feedback from their colleagues. They became more confident in their teaching. They tested things with their colleagues, whilst colleagues were really engaged and getting all of that information. And very quickly, learners started to see that there was more relevance, they were more current, and it was just absolutely fantastic to see. It didn't cost a penny. It was just being intentional about what we were going to do, because dual professionalism can really be improved very quickly, but you need to know what people need to do, how you're going to do it, how you're going to notice that impact as well. Another example was actually someone had not been out of college for a very long time. They'd been facilitating for a long time. So they decided to go out and shadow a member of staff in a care home. They kept a reflective log. They saw that safeguarding aspect and the language they were using had changed, the models had changed, etc. They came back to a college and they ran that CPD session for the team that they called What's Changed. Updated all of the teaching materials in line with it. They really collaborated around it and just made they felt much stronger in their teaching. So although they were absolute experts facilitators, they felt they'd got that knowledge again and felt really up to date. And it started something for her, that in that she actually continued having that link with her care home, which was really lovely to see. So she could see that staying close to the sector would be so valuable for her, but also for her learners. So what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't have to cost a lot. It just needs that CPD plan, the PDP plans, if you're line managers or in quality, to really be intentional about how we're going to get there, how we're going to do that, how we're going to commit to designing processes that are going to enable that professional growth. Is that okay so far? Do you recognize some of the things that you do in your teams? Again, give me a little thumbs up or a little heart to let me know that you are doing some of that already. And maybe for some of you, it might have just given you an idea on what you can start developing or add to what you're currently doing as well. Your commitment in terms of the quality team, but also leaders and managers, is to really start to create that psychological space, safe space, where all of our practitioners can reflect, collaborate, innovate. I know some of you will still be in a space where you're doing some observations that are graded. Think about developmental observation, think about peer observation, think of unseen observations, to really create that space where people can innovate and really foster, you know, the space for conversations and innovation rather than compliance. Make sure you constantly champion the two sides, that you constantly champion when people talk about teaching and learning, that you keep on adding pedagogical excellence, industry relevance in everything that you do. Keep doing that. Keep thinking about the professional standards. Can you include them in more and more of the things that you're doing to showcase to your teams that they are true professionals, and that if they are true professionals, they are going to think about both sides, but also because you're showcasing to you're becoming that strategic advocate for dual professionalism in your governance, in your planning, in your inspection readiness, as we talked about just a moment ago. You're going to be that advocate for it. Design those systems that will support that practitioner growth. Don't think of it as just compliance. Think about really quality development, quality improvement, not just quality assurance. And then also make sure you start to think, and we're going to do that again, look at it in a second, but how do we start to evidence the professional impact through some learner outcomes, maybe the practitioner voice or action learning sets or etc. that you might be doing. So this is really your commitment for this academic year or this year, is really for you to think, am I absolutely committed to dual professionalism, and am I showcasing it in all aspects of my role? What can we do? Think about those enablers. As I've said, how do you create that space for reflective practice? Do you have, I don't know, we used to have Friday morning where we all came together and did things. We had lunch and learn, where we could just do an hour at lunchtime where we talk about that. We've had coffee and chats. We've had lots of different things, quite informal, just to keep thinking about where we can reflect on our practice. The Teach Meets, there's lots of things happening online as well. Loads of great stuff happening online that you can tap into, in networks, maybe nationally or maybe within your area as well. Think of that peer collaboration, buddy people up, see if they can work together and work together. Nothing like having a buddy, someone you can work with to help that growth. Have clear standards and framework, as we've said, use those professional standards. Think about mentoring and coaching that you can maybe get to support that development. Again, ETF and SET have got a free mentoring service where you can ask some of your experts to become mentors and your novice teachers to be mentored, all for free. You can register your interest on the site. It's absolutely a fantastic service, but you can do that within your own organisation. And then think about who in the organisation can really help you with your professionalism. Is it your line managers, your curriculum leads? Do you need to tap into the employer forums and the employers that you work with? Could you ask if you can go in shadow? And people who are doing probably like T-levels or apprenticeships, you're probably already there, but are you intentionally coming back with things and sharing it with others? I think that's the thing that I've seen in many places, that individually people did it, but there was nothing at organization level that showcased all of that and that showcased that best practice. Because if you haven't got that culture of dual professionalism is not going to flourish. It's just going to stay in silos, and that best practice is not going to be shared. So think about your enablers, think about your support sources to help you with how you can move forward. And again, this will be in the slides. I'll share all of that with you, in terms of knowing what happens if people don't develop their pedagogical skills and the barriers to their growth, the impact that it has on learners and the mitigation. And again, I'd really encourage you to think of that. You know, where are our barriers? What is it that's not happening? Is it because they've not got access to supervisors? Is it because they've got digital skills gap? Is it because you know, we've not actually helped them with differentiation strategies or adaptive learning? So all of those things, and think about the impact that it had. That's what we want to see, the impact that it's having on learners, and then what can we do to mitigate that? And some things can be really, really easy, you know, 15 minutes of reflections, feeding back, sharing ideas, using the standards more often, etc. So I'm hoping that I can, as you go through that, and again, you can see the same for professional growth. You know, some of the barriers to great delivery could be that they've got outdated knowledge. It could be that there's no employer engagement. So look at the things that you can do to actually, you know, like here, limited engagement at a college that I work with. They called it an employer in every classroom. Everyone was allocated a couple of employers that they could use throughout the year to come as guest speakers. Absolutely fantastic. They recorded some of them and then they could use them again afterwards. So again, just think laterally, but again, make sure it's absolutely intentional in how you do things. Is this giving you some more ideas about how you can go about that planning phase? And we are at the beginning of the academic year. You might have already planned all that. Some of you, I'm sure, will have planned things back in June, July about what's coming this year. If you are in apprenticeships, roll on, roll off, you know, there's no necessarily clear starting point. So think about your baseline, where you're starting from. How am I going to plan this? Get your team around you. How are we going to set our goals for this year? How am I going to start implementing it? How will I review it? How will I know that it's having that impact? How can I analyze the outcomes? And then also, and really, really important, how will I evaluate but also celebrate the progress that they're making? I am seeing, I'm just going to stop and go in the chats for a minute because I can see that some of you are adding to it. So absolutely fantastic to see. Hourly contracted tutors, Christine, absolutely right. Sometimes that is tricky because of that, and there are different ways to tap into it where you get industry to come to those hours where your tutors are actually delivering. So you have industry coming into college or into your workplace to actually share some of that whilst they are teaching. So you're actually upskilling the learners, but you're upskilling your tutors at the same time. So that's sometimes one way to think about it and approach it. Research, practitioner research, really, really important. How do you do that? How do you allocate research in different teams? How do they bring that together? Again, I'm governor at Walsall College and they do marketplace a couple of times in the year where people bring their research to the massive atrium, and we've got a marketplace. They talk about what they've researched and the difference that it's made and really share that best practice. So lots of different ways of doing it. I can see Louise about unseen observation, so powerful. Absolutely a nice way to do it, and available to everyone. Really helping them. Sarabjit, I think you've put how are teachers supported to develop that reflective practice that you want? What does it look like for them? And again, as quality managers, just have a think. How would we do that to create the space for them to do that? Do we want them to come together and do that reflection together? Do they like to keep a journal and share the journal with others, etc.? There are just so many ways to do it. So be creative and innovative, but make sure that you get the buy-in from everyone. So that's why I was talking about that co-creation and that collaboration in doing that. So it's not done onto them. It's absolutely created with them, and that makes an absolute massive difference to how they're going to get involved, and for people to do it to the level that they can. Like some of you said, if you've got part-time tutors, maybe for them, the fact that they will just do intentionally a little bit more of industry currency update, or they're going to look at one aspect of their teaching that they want to develop. It's got to be proportionate to how much they work with you or how much they can do, and again, that comes with discussion. If you're in a year, I know in apprenticeships this year a lot is changing around assessments, around curriculum. Your practitioners are going to be developing all of the time because they're doing that to be up to date. So sometimes there are periods where actually CPD comes so naturally because of the context. Sometimes you've got to go out and really make the effort to go out and be intentional about your development. I hope this is giving you some ideas already around how you can do that. So let's think now about the last part of our session around how we can really measure and evidence the impact of all of those things that we want to put in place, really focusing on that teaching side, that industry, that subject knowledge that you want to have. So think about your quality cycle, and there are lots of different ones. I showed you a different one before. It looked like something like this, where you look at teaching, learning and development, where you look at your professional development, your standardization, your monitoring, your evaluation and feedback, all your quality improvement plan, and then also that success and that celebration of progress. If you can you please scan the QR code? I've created a Menti here with three, oh, that I'm lying. Ellie, who's on the ETF team, created the Menti for the 3 questions that I wanted to ask you. The first one is, and I hope you can all access it, but I'm also going to read out, maybe I'll put the questions in the chats as well. So if you can't access Menti, hopefully give us a little thumbs up when you are in Menti. And Ellie, I know you can help me see some of the answers there, but I will put the questions in the chats as well. Where is dual professional visible for you in your organization? So that's number 1. That's the question we asked at the beginning, but it sort of puts it back in context. What data do you collect? Do we collect in our organization to measure the impact of dual professionalism, and what do you do with it? And then what stories do you hear in terms of that qualitative evidence? Feedback from learners, feedback from employers, a workforce that is actually feeling on top of their game, and experts, and how do you capture all that? Because a lot of things in organization happen a bit ad hoc, and what we want to do is create that space where you can have that all gathered, so you can really showcase that dual professionalism that we were talking about at the beginning. That's really at the heart of everything that we do, that purpose, people and practice. Ellie, are we getting some answers coming through already for that first question?
Yes, we are. So the big answers on kind of where dual professionalism is visible is in practice, in culture, in CPD, when talking to employers, in the training sessions, in vocational courses, in team meetings, in CPD sessions. So kind of quite a variety of answers coming through.
What about the second one? What data do we collect?
So what data do we collect? We collected CPD attendance, achievement rates, employer and learner feedback, assessment outcomes, colleagues feedbacking to each other, CPD logs with reflections, surveys, how many learners successfully gain work in that field, the impact of supports promoting dual professionalism, SAR data, lots of
Different
CPD.
ways to capture it, yeah.
Yeah,
And CPD,
CPD is
CPD
another big one.
attendance and the impact of CPD. Yeah. And what about the third one? Stories that they hear, that more qualitative sort of evidence that they're gathering.
So trainers like to share workplace examples or shadowing in the workplace. We've got feedback and case studies in learners feeling prepared for a new role, in
Mm.
success stories, staff celebrations, feedback from visitors, impact the teacher has had on the learner,
Yeah.
students returning to talk to past students returning to talk to current students, communities of practice, awards for staff.
Wow.
So yeah, lots of, and then
Some
positive
great
feedback,
examples there. Some
employer
great
feedback.
examples. I wonder, Ellie, if as well as sending the slides, could we actually send the Menti as
Yes.
well?
Yep,
That'd
I
be
can.
really good because I think it could again open some ideas and some different ways to look at things through what we've collated there in the Menti. That's
Yes,
perfect.
definitely.
So absolutely clear that dual professionalism is visible in certain areas. You're probably starting to think already about where you can make it a bit more salient and a bit more visible to everyone. You're already collecting some data. You're already hearing the stories. And if you're not hearing the stories, what is it telling you? If you're not gathering data around your professionalism, why is that? So let's have a little think about how you measure it. How do you measure the impact of dual professionalism on learners? For me, it could be, and I think some of you said that, it could be that you notice their progress, you notice their engagement. Some of you said industry readiness, they're becoming more autonomous, got more agency, they're keen to do research. So really important that you can probably measure some of those with data, progress, engagement, attendance. You can measure some of those. Some of the other ones will be probably through surveys. Practitioners, teachers, and coaches, how do we measure the impact of dual professionalism on them? It could be that you measure maybe through the ETF self-assessment, but confidence. You do that through your lesson observations. Potentially, you're going to look at those pedagogical skills that you're seeing, that industry relevance. You could see that in feedback from your EQA visits. That reflective practice, are they taking part in activities? So you can measure that in different ways. In terms of employers and industry partners, again, you can measure their engagement. Are they engaged with you? You know how many employers you work with, how many have come into college in a year, how many have come into classrooms, how many of your staff have been supported by employers. You could also measure how many employers have helped co-design the curriculum. You could look at how satisfied they are with the programs and the delivery. So lots of different ways again that you can measure that. How do you measure the impact of dual professionalism on communities and the wider stakeholders? That's maybe thinking about some of your ESGI aspects. So your social impact, your inclusion, the reputation of your college, the visibility on your website around the work that you're doing and your professionalism, so that actually your wider stakeholders are absolutely aware of that, and the ripple effects of dual professionalism will extend to, how much you engage with the community and the sector, etc., the sector influence. So you could have people who from your organization who also engage or write blogs or take part in ETF activities or present things at conferences, etc. That's also one way to measure potentially the impact that you're having. So that's one aspect. How do you measure that currently? Is there something else you could think of that you're not currently measuring? Now, how do you measure the impact of dual professionalism on curriculum and pedagogy, for instance? That's another interesting one to think of. So again, have you got strong intent of your curriculum that really showcase that closeness to industry? You've got good sequencing that really aligns with what's being done out there in your industry. Is it relevant? Are you innovating? So there's lots of things again here that you can see how that curriculum is designed and taught and how your teams bridge theory and practice. But are you really noticing that, and are you noting that somewhere? In terms of leadership and governance, again, we talked about purpose. Is there clear strategic alignment? So go back to purpose of your organization and that investment in dual professionals and creating that quality culture. Is it in all of your culture development? Is it more, where is it now, and how can you improve it? Are the leaders creating the conditions for that dual professionalism? So your self-assessment would also probably measure the impact of that leadership and governance. Quality systems and processes, monitoring, evaluation, you've got feedback loops. We've talked about all of the different things that you could be doing. Improvement plans, so look at how your quality improvement plan includes all of that. You can really showcase that it's truly embedded within your quality structures. College culture and strategy, is it aligned with your values? The partnerships that you've got, is it in every staff development that you create? Is it all really learner-centered and helping everyone in terms of the ethos and the strategic direction of the company? Does it truly reflect that commitment to dual professionalism? So a lot to think of in terms of measuring impact. And again, I like a little table, so I'm leaving you with different ways that you can examine. And I can't go through everything because you come from so many different areas. You're probably at different stages within your quality development. So I'm trying to just give you some ideas that you can explore further in your own organization. One of the ways that you can look at it is think of the quality areas that you look after. Think about genuinely, intentionally, how you're going to find that quantitative data. You gave me so much already on the Menti that you are doing, but have you actually tracked it in this way? You know, if I track XYZ in this way, it's going to tell me that I've got strong dual professionalism. Qualitative data as well, some of the things that you can gather. So that's one way to do it, and you can start putting some KPIs or some objectives for teams. Another way to do it is, if we think back to our little quadrant there, is really thinking about how do I measure it for the different types of practitioners that I've got within my organization. How do I know they've got that dual professionalism truly embedded in their work? So as you move, you sort of keep on adding to get to that expert educator, where you want to see that autonomy of the learners. You want to see that they're helping to co-design curriculum. They might really create some nice case studies, etc. So again, these are just examples of how you can measure it with real intention. And there'll be lots of different ways, and I'm sure some of you are already doing that fantastically. So I hope I've helped you to think about what you're doing currently. I told you that we'd do a bit of reflection, and as we come to the end of the session, I'd like you to really think about, how do you feel your quality practices currently support your professionalism on a 1 to 10? I want you to think just for a minute about what would it take to take it just 1 point higher. One of the things we discussed today that you could try and implement that would make a difference. And then you could be really brave and say, how could it be a 10 in the next few years? How do I reach a 10? What is it that I really want to showcase? So absolutely reflection time. I can see some 6, 7, 8, some 5s. Great. Some of you are already, as I can see it, having such an impact on the dual professionalism of your practitioners. But even with an 8, maintain it, making that 1 more. 5, 6, 7. Pick the aspects that are going to have more of an impact in the next few months, and really work with that and collaborate, co-create with others. So really interesting for you to think of that. Sarah, looking at the measures and continuing to drive reflections, looking at movement between the different stages of practitioners will be really interesting to see. So just for you to continue on these reflections really as you go. So if you would put in the chats just one thing you learned today that you think you can really carry forward. And if you want to, just what's next for you, just maybe one thing you're going to take away would be great for me to see that it's been useful for you to spend an hour with me. And I have to say, I think we've only lost two people along the way, just as 5 o'clock arrives, probably people having to go. So hopefully it's given you lots of food for thought in terms of your quality processes. As I said, they're just ideas from years and years of being in the sector and really focusing on that dual professionalism. So hopefully it's been useful. SET and ETF have created this survey. So if I can ask you just for a minute to scan once more the QR code here. Ellie, I think you're going to put the link in the chats as well. I would love to hear how you found it. I had one for if you enjoyed it. We recorded the one that was just a few weeks ago for practitioners. You can have that on demand, I think, on the SET website, so you can share it with your teams, or you can look into it and then share it with your teams. I know actually there were people who were watching it in groups in some of the classrooms, and they found that really useful. But please look at the surveys, keep doing what you're doing, keep being that ambassador for dual professionalism, and yeah, have a really excellent year. Thank you so much for your participation and sharing all of that great practice that you have in your organisation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Barbara, we do just have one very quick question
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
before we go. I
I'm
know
trying
we are
to follow the chats, but
very close
obviously.
on time, but someone put Beverly put a question in, just saying, do you have any good suggestions for mentoring or coaching, training or qualifications?
So, as I said, the ETF offer the mentoring service, so you can go and do that. And I think in terms of mentoring and coaching, I can't refer, but I would start probably with a level 3 in coaching. Just pick maybe an awarding organisation that you work with, and most of them will have some great coaching qualifications that you can tap into.
Great, thank you. And I think all the other questions we've answered as we've gone through. So
Perfect.
thank you, Barbara, for a really, really informative session. As you mentioned, this has been recorded and will be available on the SET website, as was the session that we ran a couple of weeks ago. And there is a third session coming up next month as well. So do keep your eye out for that. But we will share the slides with all attendees. So thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.